Hey everyone, this is Faisal, certified high performance coach and a lifelong student of philosophy, spirituality, and sciences. So today is challenge day 19, and today's challenge topic is perception. A very exciting and interesting topic, well, at least for me. Before I go into the questions and into the topic, I want to take the time to thank and honor all those who have been participating, all those who have been liking and sharing the videos. I hope you guys are seeing similar results as I am, because this just teaching these things, just discussing these topics with you guys is changing the way I understand many things. It's making me learn so many things from your perspective as well, and it's making me learn things that I didn't know I actually learned before as well. And when just like I spoke to you guys yesterday about self-expression, the more I express, the more I get things out of me that I didn't know existed. I'm creating more knowledge from within me, or I'm remembering more that I had studied for years and years. So in any case, I urge you guys to encourage more people to come and join us, and make sure you keep liking and sharing the videos. Make sure you keep posting your answers. And I just wanted to address one thing. Many people don't post their answers because they think that, oh, what they think might not be as profound as what I think or what some other people write down here. But I'll show you guys with this topic, perception, that's not really accurate, because each one of us has I keep mentioning this, that we all have a different perspective, different way of looking at things, and we all bring a piece of the puzzle on the table. And the more perspectives we bring on this discussion, the more we learn. And I keep repeating this, but it's very true, and I'll show you guys why that's true. Okay, so today's topic is perception. A very vague, one of those vague topics, and one of those topics that's very abstract, but I'll try to make it as simple as I can. It's one of those topics where there have been books written on this. It has been studied in psychology, it has been studied in philosophy, it's been studied in neuroscience, and many other fields. Now, before I go into the topic, I have two questions for you. And I want you to really think about them. They might be challenging, but really consider them. And even if you don't know the answer to it, be open to it. You might get an answer from yourself. And even then, if you don't get it, keep watching the video. Okay, the first question is, do you think everyone around you sees the world exactly as you do? Or they see things around them or understand things around them exactly as you do? Why, if you said yes to it, and why not? If you said that they don't see it the way you do, or if you said that they do see the way you do, make sure you put your answer as to why you think that. And the second question is, how do you think your perception of the world and a perception of yourself affects your life? Or in other words, how do you think the way you understand things and the way you see things affects yourself, or affects your life? The way you understand yourself and your environment affects your life in general. Think about it and write down the answer. I know these questions might be a little abstract, but trust me, you'll know why I'm asking you. And also, in generally, about all these topics that I'm bringing up, they will all come together at the end. They all have a place in your personal development, and the way you understand your life, and the way that you look at your life, and the way that you move through your life. You have to understand these concepts to create a more complete life for yourself. And trust me, they'll all come together by the end of the 30 days. So stay with me. Okay, so what is perception in itself? And I have brought this up many times during our 30-day challenge, but I'm going to explain to you, because this plays into many aspects of our life. Literally, it defines how we look at life. So perception, if you want to define it, basically it's the way we understand our life. It's the way we look at the things in our environment. It's the way we look at ourselves. It's the way we look at our relationships and understand them. It's the way we make sense of our world, our environment, and ourselves, to put it in a nutshell. Now, why did I bring up perception, and why did I ask you that first question? Do you think others see the world exactly as you do? Well, that's kind of a trick question, and I'll go into it as to why that's a trick question. Because the answer to that is yes and no. But let's go into perception. If you look at perception in itself, and the first time I was really introduced to it in terms of evidence, that was in my psychology class. I think it was 2006. It was the first psychology class that I ever took with a very exciting teacher. It was one of my best teachers. He was my professor in psychology, Stan Cameron. And what he did was he showed us a video, and this blew my mind. And I'll tell you the video, but I'll tell you what to search for after. But you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so the video was a bunch of people throwing balls, basketball, to each other, and he asked us before the video was run to count the number of times the white T-shirt players would throw the ball to the other white T-shirt players, something like that. So many of the classmates, they all focused on that, and I focused on that, and I counted the number of times, and it was 17, and I was so proud of myself that I counted it. And at the end, the teacher asks us, "Did you notice the gorilla in the middle of them throwing the ball to each other?" And I'm like, "What? There was a gorilla?" And then he repeated the same video, and guess what we saw? There was a guy in a gorilla suit walking right in the middle of where they were throwing the ball. But many people, actually most people, did not see that there was a gorilla. Why was that? Because that's when I realized with evidence that our perception is not all the same. And our perception is very limited to what we focus on. And this becomes a very, very crucial topic. And I always thought about this as a child, that if I'm looking at the same thing, am I seeing the same thing as somebody else beside me? And I always wondered that, but then that's what got me interested in psychology, and I guess that's what created the chain reaction about me studying everything else. So that's one aspect of perception, that whatever we pay attention to in our life, that's what becomes the prominent aspect of our life. And this goes into personal development, saying that if you pay attention to the negative things in your life, you're going to notice more negative things in your life. Even though you have so many positives in your life, so many things to be grateful for, your mind will focus on that because you've trained it to focus on that one thing. And also your perception works with your attention. So how is perception formed in itself? If you study it through neuroscience, and even if you study it through philosophy, neuroscientists will tell you that perception is formed based on two factors. The first one is what we do is we create a context, or we need an environment. So our senses give us senses such as our sight, hearing, and the rest of them, they give us information from our environment, and that goes within us. And then whatever we have, the second part of perception is whatever we have experienced in our life, whatever we believe, whatever we have learned, whatever we remember, we combine that, whatever we see in that environment, with what we see, with what we know within us, and we create a picture. We create a reality for ourselves. And this is where this gets very interesting, because when you define perception like that, when we know with evidence that perception is based on two things. One is the environment that you're in, and more specifically, your senses giving you the information from the environment. And the second one is what you already know, what you already believe, what you already understand, what you already have learned, what your memories are. So your mind combines those two and gives you a picture based on your attention, and that's where the attention comes in. Like I told you that gorilla story. And by the way, you can see that video on YouTube right now. Just type, even though I told you, but there's another tricky aspect of that video as well. It's called the Invisible Gorilla, but search for the monkey business. The Invisible Monkey Business, something like that. It's on YouTube, and you will know how amazing this is. And so when we look at our environment, two people that look at the same environment, they will see very different aspects of that environment. Sometimes it might be very similar, sometimes it might be very different depending on two people where they came from. So for example, if you take one person that came from a country in Africa, and they only lived in a village most of their life there, and all of a sudden they moved to States, and you take another person who had been living in United States most of their life, and you get them to try to explain to you what the world that they see means to them. You will get very different answers. And I just remembered something. One of the things somebody sent to me in my email was a story, or it was something. It wasn't even a story; it was a marketing thing, and it was really cool because it was about the company Nike, or one of the shoe companies. So Nike sends two salesperson or marketing people to a village in Africa. And the one person goes in there and he sees, and it's they're both selling shoes. And the first person goes in there, sees that nobody wears shoes. So he calls his boss and says, "I'm packing my bags, just book my flight because there's nobody here who wears shoes. I'm not going to be able to sell shoes here." The guy said, "Okay, that's fine." And then the second salesperson or marketing person, he looks there and he gets really excited. He's like, "Oh my God," he calls his boss. He's like, "Send all the shoes that you have here because I can sell it to all these people." So the same exact situation, people didn't wear shoes and didn't even know about what shoes was. But the one person looked at it in terms of a possibility of selling shoes. The other person looked at it and like, "Oh, don't worry, nobody wears shoes here. Who the hell's going to buy my product?" So this becomes very interesting in the way we understand our life. And we talked about attention, and attention is very important in perception because you'll learn if you study neuroscience a little bit, just the basics of it, you'll learn in terms of how we look at things. The environment gives us a lot of information. We get thousands of bits of information that's coming towards us, and our senses keep downloading that. But the mind has a limited amount of energy that it has to work with. And they even calculated that. I think it's 20 watts at one specific time. It's a very, very small number of small amount of energy. So with that amount of energy, it can only take a small portion of the environment and make you see that in that moment, make you understand that in that moment. So basically, you see a high resolution picture of a specific thing in your environment. And it always goes to the things that's important to you, the things that you have an emotional connection to. So whatever is important to you in that environment, that's what you will see. And that's where your mind will always take you. That's what you will always perceive. So that's why we have a limited amount of attention throughout the day as well. So when we think about how much focus and attention we can put on things, we have to be very strategic as to what we're focusing on in our life. And that's why when you go back to personal development, you need to understand that the things that you focus on that are negative, it drains more of your energy, because you have to try to resolve the negative within yourself so much, and that energy consumption drains you of other energy needed to do other positive things in your life. But if you focus on the positive, the things that you already have, the things that are making you happy, that doesn't require a lot of energy, and in fact it actually increases your amount of energy that you have throughout the day, because it makes you excited about life. It makes you look forward to life, towards life. So I hope that was clear. I know it's an abstract concept. So we talked about three things. One, that your perception depends on the environment that you're in, and The second part was that also when you download the information from the environment, it gets combined with what you already know based on your experience, based on your beliefs, based on the way you remember things. It combines it and gives you a reality that's yours. And then the third was the focus and attention. Whatever you focus on, that's what will keep coming back in your environment, because that's what you will keep focusing on as you go. That's what where your attention will go towards. And you will notice, I'll give you another example. So if you buy a car that's a model, let's say buy a Honda Civic, you'll notice more of Honda Civics on the road. Or if you buy a Mazda, you'll notice more of that specific Mazda on the road. It's a very interesting thing. And another way of looking at this is that the only way, if you think of magicians or illusion artists, the way they trick us to believe that this whatever they're doing is magic is based on this perception concept. They understand it very well, and they understand your attention very well. So they basically most of magic acts start by the magician or the illusion artist telling you, pay attention to this. So when you pay attention to that thing, you're focusing out everything else in that environment. And that's how you will get misdirected, and then all of a sudden something else pops out that you never saw, that he was preparing on the side or she was preparing on the side. So those three things create the way you look at reality. And when I understood this, I was blown away. Why? Because everything that I know, everything that I've been taught since childhood, when we are born into this world, our perception, our experience of the way children learn is by exploring around them, by being curious, by asking things, by doing things. But we come into societies where there are predetermined things that we have to learn. So, for example, if you're born into a religion, you'll be taught certain things about a religion, or if you're born into a culture, you'll be taught certain things that will be true for you based on that culture, because you're going to learn those things to be true because that's the environment that you grew up in. And we talked about the first 6-7 years of your life. That's where most of your perceptions are formed. That's where that's how you determine what's real for you the rest of your life, unless you question it. So why do we need to question our perceptions? Well, for one thing, much of what we're taught in societies and in our environment, there's positive and negative as well. So we talked about beliefs, that we're taught positive beliefs, we're taught negative things, we see positive things, negative things, but sometimes we create these perceptions in our mind, we create these beliefs in our mind that things are a certain way, but they really aren't. So, and eventually when we come to a point where we want something, but they conflict with what we want, those beliefs. So let me give you an illustration of this, an example. So as a child, if you were taught most of your life, you were born in a poor class or a middle class, if you were taught that rich people are evil or money takes you towards negative things, you make that part of your belief, you become emotionally attached to that, and then as you grow up and you move to a place where money is a necessity, and that's how you create a better life for yourself. And for many people that might be just a tool to use to create a better life. But let's say for you specifically, you were taught that over and over as a child, that money is the root of evil. Your subconscious mind, even though you might want money right now to be in your life, you might want resources, you might want a better house, you might want a better car, you might want to go on vacations. But what your subconscious mind does is it keeps sabotaging what you want right now based on what you have learned as a child. And you might not even remember that you learned that as a child in a lot of cases. And this becomes really crazy because you're constantly going towards making money, but you sabotage your life subconsciously by somehow going away from money. In many cases, you will keep spending more, but you don't even know why you're keep spending more than what you earn. But many people do that, and that might be related to their subconscious belief that they shouldn't have more money. So that's one example, and obviously there are exceptions to this, but that's an example of how your perception, or your part of your perception, that's your beliefs, could affect your reality. Another example might be that if you're taught, since this is a more of a Western example, if you're taught from childhood that if you're not skinny like a model, especially for girls, this might be true. You're not worthy enough, or you don't look good enough, or you're not. Nobody will be attracted to you, or you won't be the most popular person. If you believe that since childhood, and much of the media nowadays and many of your social environment might be constantly telling you that since childhood, that that's the model for a beautiful person, is a very skinny person who wears things a certain way, who wears makeup, who wears certain types of dresses or clothing. So if that's your perception, that's what you believed as a child growing up, if let's say your body is not the exact model of that, you'll always be miserable with yourself. And in many cases, even if you have that exact model, you will keep wanting more of that, because you're so attached to that idea that that's what beautiful is. But when you study what beauty is, it's very different throughout the earth that we know in different cultures. Is very different understanding of beauty. Beauty in some cultures might be the way somebody's eyes are, the way somebody's face looks. In other cultures might be how, even just for women, if we just look at it in terms of women, it might be how big a woman is. In other cultures, it might be how skinny a woman is. In other cultures, it might be how courageous a woman is. So definition of beauty is very relative to where you come from, we have to be very careful with our beliefs and the things that we've been taught, and that's why our perception is so important. In terms of all the things that I'm teaching you, this is so important, because the more we start to question the things that we know, the more our brain or our mind tries to make a better picture of what we want in life. So what do I mean by that? So if you want a life that's based on happiness, that's based on joy, that's based on understanding, that's based on great relationships, you can't always rely on what you've been taught since childhood. This doesn't mean that there was something wrong with your culture or with your religion or with your society completely, but it does mean that most of the societies that we belong to, most of the cultures, most of the religions that we belong to, the institutions that we belong to, they have a flaw within them, and the flaw is with the way people do things and the way people teach things, model things. So our parents might not have been the perfect model that we might need to be a certain way. And I'm not expecting that parents should be perfect, but what I'm saying is that many things that we're taught in our environment, they might create challenges in our life later on if we don't question them. And like I said about our perception, so whatever information that we have in our memory and our beliefs and how we understand things, that's how we will judge our environment. That's how we will understand our environment. And another thing, this is another aspect of why this is so important, is in terms of relationships. We all think that the people that are around us, they understand things exactly like us. They perceive things exactly like us. But you will be shocked to know how much even the closest people to you understand things very differently. They look at the world very differently around them. And when we take into account that very important factor in our communication, it might be the difference between a great relationship or a relationship that's in constant conflict. And much of the communication problem that people have is that the first person assumes that whatever they're telling the other person, that's exactly how it's going to come out, and that's how they're going to understand it. They don't take into account that their life experiences and beliefs and perceptions might be a little bit different than them. Even if you're part of the same culture, and I'll explain what that is, in terms of your collective perception might be similar, but even even if you are part of the same religion, same culture, same society, your perceptions might be slightly different based on the family that you were born in. And you can even see that within the family, siblings might have different perceptions based on how they were treated, based on the information that they received from their environment. So it becomes very, very crucial that we question the things that we know. It also becomes very important that we become more understanding of other people. We become more curious about why people think the way they do. So if your spouse, for example, or your brother or your sister, for example, tell you something and there's a conflict, try to understand how they understand the thing that they understand. So ask questions rather than tell them that, oh, this is what I think and that's the way. Because most of the time there's a difference about how we understand things or how we look at things rather than agreement or disagreement. Because we don't even understand the same thing in the same way and we think that we should agree or disagree with it. Agreement and disagreement only comes if we actually understand things in the same way. This becomes even more important in intimate relationships where if the two partners communicate more, if they understand each other's way of looking at things, each other's dreams, each other's hobbies and what they love and what they don't love, if they understand that more, the more close their perceptions become. They understand the world in a similar way. Or the other side of the coin is if they understand each other more, they realize that they don't want to be with that person. That's true too. That might happen as well. The last part of this is the collective perception. So as a culture or society, we're taught similar things. So we also have a collective perception. So if you have a person that lived with you in the same culture or in the same community or same society, they were brought up this similarly too, they will have a similar perception of you. But don't make any mistake with collective perception and individual perception, because even though you might have a collective perception, your individual perception might be different. But the advantage of having a collective perception that's similar is that you will understand things more between each other. But the more farther apart you get in terms of cultures, religions, societies, the more different your perceptions of the world will get, the more different you will see the world around you. And this is why I keep telling you guys, the more perspective you have about the world around you, the more pieces of the puzzle that you guys see, the more people participate in this discussion, the more different types of subjects that we learned, the more our perception will expand, the more our perspective will expand, the more patterns we'll be able to recognize. And that's the other aspect of perception. Perception is basically a pattern recognition. And Tony Robbins talked about this in one of his tapes, where if you think about Michael Jordan, basketball player, the reason he's so good at what he does is because he knows so many patterns of how people play. So before even another player does something, he already knows the pattern because he has practiced so much. He has been in games so much. He has tried to study and understand how basketball works compared to somebody who didn't as much as him. So that's why the more we understand the world around us, the better we get at how we deal with life. And this is my philosophy. The more we understand the basics of every kind of knowledge, that's why I always study science, art, philosophy, spirituality, all these subjects. I understand at least the basics of all of them. But then there's always that one thing that we need to master, and that's the thing that will be your profession, that will be your career. Because the more skill you gain in that one thing that you master, the better you will be able to teach people, the better you will be able to do that skill, if that's in terms of your art or that's you being a scientist. So the more you master that skill, the better you get at it, and the more you're able to create that into a profession if you wanted to, or you get a job related to that if you wanted to. And that's mastery. The reason I brought that up is because both aspects of learning is very important. One is mastering a subject, and the other one is learning different things about life. Learning many things about life gives you a better perspective about life, and you're able to see more patterns, and you're able to create a life that you can truly pick from, that you have many options to pick from. And then the mastery of whatever subject that you're interested in gives you that profession or that interest that you'll be able to market as a business, or you can also get a job in that field. In the same way that I'm trying to market myself as a coach or as somebody who teaches these things. So this becomes very important. So that's why perception is so crucial, and how we look at our life, and how we look at ourselves, and how we look at our environment, and also becomes crucial in terms of our communication. So I hope I was able to explain this abstract topic. I know there were many things in it and it was complicated, but keep watching the video a couple of times if you didn't get it the first time. And go ahead and watch that video on YouTube. You might be amazed by that. It's called the monkey business, or the invisible gorilla. And other than that, now I want to hear from your perspective. And I told you that your perspective is important because your perception is based on experiences that I don't have, and I can learn from that. And in the same way, you can learn from other people's perceptions, no matter how little they know or how much more they know. So there's nobody that's better in terms of a subject. It's always things coming together. I might know a few more things because I've studied it longer, but you might know something that I might not. And that's why I'm learning from this as well. So 2 questions that I need you guys to answer. The first one was, do you think that the people around you see the world exactly the way you do? And if the answer is yes, why? If the answer is no, why? And the second one was, how do you think your perception affects perception of yourself, and in your environment affects your life? Hopefully I was able to explain that as well, and maybe you can give me another pointer in how we're affected by our perception. In any case, thank you very much. Thanks for watching the video, and I look forward to the next video. And make sure you like and share the video. Make sure you post your answers on the original video. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. If you loved or even liked the video or this episode, you can do 2 things right now. One, you can click on the subscribe tab right here on the screen, or in the info area if you can't click on the screen. So you're up to date on all my free training, on all the free training that I send on my YouTube channel on a regular basis. And 2, you can click on the success indicator tab on the screen or in the info section, so you can get the training, the thorough training that I created for you, that has 10 factors that will determine whether or not you will be successful at anything that you do or want to do. And it will also help you create more success at anything that you want to do in life. So, and this will also get you subscribed to my newsletter, so I can send you more of these free training on a regular basis that I don't post on my YouTube channel. So make sure you click on those 2 buttons or tabs, and make sure you like and share this video. Make sure you post your comments in the comment section below, so we can get more people involved in our community right here. Thank you very much. Have a great day.